G'day everyone, how you going? Stozza here. Just going to do a bit of a stream on St. Paddy's Day. Hope you guys are having a good day. I'm sure if you're Irish, you're probably not watching the stream and you're down the pub somewhere. But yeah, hopefully you can let me know if the audio is okay. Oh, cool. A Mango Junkie in class. Awesome. That's so cool. Thanks for popping in and saying hello. Yeah, so a couple of things. So first off the bat, I wanted to just do a quick check of the price because Hex is absolutely pumping. 8.7 cents. So yeah, I've just been glued to this, just watching it. And we've really broken out of this downtrend here. And it looks like we're sort of using that trend line as support and bouncing off it. I think a lot of the crypto markets are sort of performing really well, maybe following the S&P 500 a little bit. There's still a bit of correlation there. So yeah, that's obviously the same sort of downtrend with the S&P 500, and then breakout and then the retest. So for people who aren't, who couldn't care less about TA, that is bullish. So bullish for stocks, for BTC, and if you sort of understand Hart's law, then things that are paired to other things that are pumping if they're in their liquidity, you tend to see pumping across the board. That's certainly something that I didn't realize in the 2017 sort of cycle. I always wondered why you would see a whole lot of alts go down on a certain day and a whole lot of alts going up, in sync, as if there was some sort of price manipulation, until Richard Hart basically explained it. So that was a bit of an epiphany for me. So yeah, always listen to Richard Hart is the motto there. And yeah, so BTC is pumping and pretty much pumping the rest of the market with it. So 26,000. So I'm surprised that that's been pumping so hard. But yeah, who cares? Because Hex is pumping even harder, and I think it will continue in terms of ROI. It takes a lot of economic energy to move the price of something that has a lot of economic energy with it. So I guess it's it's a case of what can run the hardest, and I think, yeah, sort of going all in on Hex is sort of working out well so far. But yeah, one of the things I want to talk about is V3 is, so I'm assuming everyone understands what I'm talking about, so I won't sort of bother explaining it too much, but PulseChain testnet V3 is about to go live. I think they are just pinging this RPC endpoints just to see when it's actually live on this link. And it's obviously not live, but that's also a good way to kind of to get a jump on it. I'll put all the links in the description. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about prices pumping. Liquidity is low, and it has moved around a little bit, but we went through a real low liquidity area, probably from about 5 cents onwards. And I think that's part of the reason why it's just pumped so hard when there's buy pressure in low liquidity. So that's something to keep an eye on. This, I always like looking at this. This is like the 0x protocol limit orders. So this link is really cool if you're looking at, say you're looking for an entry price or whatever. This is Hex USDC, and so this is not represented in the liquidity pools that you see on Uniswap. But for example, there is literally $1 million buy order at 8 cents. Sorry, 80,000 USD at 8 cents, which is 1 million Hex. And that's at 8 cents. So, but then, likewise, there's a sell order here, 2.1 million, which is 192 grand at 8.8 cents. So you can kind of get a feel. Some of these numbers are a bit crazy because as the price ramps up, you kind of go, oh, wow, this is worth, however much, but they're only selling a very small, like say 80,000 hex. They're selling it for 17 grand, but that's because it's 21 cents. So yeah, you can kind of have a play with that. And I think it's cool. Other cool stuff is this hex logos. So if I go back to here, you can see PulseX in the middle. But yeah, this site's cool. It's got some cool wallpapers. Let me put it back to it. Yeah, it's just like you can just free download. There was an Aussie one here, which is really cool. There it is. So yeah, there's all sorts of cool stuff on this. So check that out. There's a few like wallet tracking platforms and apps and things like that, which I've found which is really cool. There's this Hex Base, which has got a lot of stats and things like that for people who are, interested in these sorts of things. It's particularly with stakes. I think I might end up doing a stream about Hex staking ladders and things like that at some point. There's a lot of cool tools like the hexfire.io. And, I think it's StakeHex today, and there's a whole bunch of cool ones, but I might do that on a separate stream. But yeah, check this out. It's pretty cool. There's also this Arkham wallet tracking thing, which is pretty cool. I put in one of the Godwire wallets, and you can sort of see, oh, okay, he's got $12 million worth of ETH. That's cool. And there's like these visualizer things, which sort of show, oh yeah. Oh, top left. If I read, yeah, you can kind of see how they join certain wallets together from exchanges. I guess it's just kind of cool. Other cool things I might talk about at the end, but the main thing I wanted to chat about today was in preparation for PulseChain. You can't help but think about other layer ones and how they've performed, and so and the time to their all-time high and all this sort of stuff. So I've done some spreadsheets, and I sort of did a bit of looking into it. There's a really cool let's see if I can get this back. There's a really cool graphic. You've probably seen it. It's how high can PulseChain go. So yeah, not financial advice. This is just moon targets and things like that. But I liked the way that they did this, and they sort of got some I guess EVM chains, basically just all forks of Ethereum, really. Or, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know enough about some of these other ones, Solana or whatnot. But all they've really done here is put the ICO price to all-time high, how many X's that is, and then like how many days it took to get to the all-time high. And if you put in $1,000, I guess at the ICO, what would your returns be? It's kind of cool, but it sort of it puts people out a little bit who haven't got in on some of the early sacrifices. I know a lot of people have sacked for PulseX, but not that many people. Well, not that many of the newer people have sacked for Pulse. And so I did a bit of a spreadsheet. I'll see if I can find it. bear with me 2 secs. Oh yeah, there it is there. Cool. So this is various chains, their ICO price, and their day one close price. So I did this because people still have an opportunity to get in on day one for PulseChain. And so if you're wondering what the day one daily close price would be, and I'm talking about the candle close, like at the end of that day, what that price is going to be. So that you'd have, so you're not saying you have to get in within the first 5 minutes, but within the day. And, you know, the price can fluctuate extremely through that first day. But this, I think, is a bit more realistic than, say, some of the ICO prices. Like, say, for example, Ethereum, the ICO price was 31 cents. And you can find out all this on ICO drops. I basically did my own research. I have seen, you know, like I said, with that graphic, there was the ICO prices and things like that. But I just didn't want to trust it. Don't trust verify. That's the thing that Tangent always says. So props to Tangent. But yeah, so I just went and checked it out myself. Most of the information you can get off ICO drops, and then also like all-time highs are pretty easily accessible on CoinGecko, things like that. So the difference between, you know, the ICO, there's already, if you look from ICO to day one, you know, Ethereum basically did a 10x on day one. So maybe comparing all-time high to ICO is fair, like 15,000x. It's crazy. But even from day one to all-time high is, you know, even orders of magnitude, say 1500x. That's still pretty impressive. So for the people who didn't necessarily get in on the ICO or couldn't for whatever reason, we're still able to get over 1700x from investing on the day one. And if you look at the Ethereum chart on day one, it's like the 7th of August or whatever, 2015 or something. It's like, oh yeah, I've got the dates here. So it actually takes a huge, it goes down. There's a huge red candle on like day two. So this is, I guess, even conservative, because I guess you could have DCA'd in if you saw it like going down. And then there's, you know, the all-time low to all-time high. And then the other thing that I thought was really interesting is if you look at the halvings, so I'll just stop this for a sec. If you look at, of course, it's going to make it difficult for me. Oh yeah, that's fully it. If you look at the halving cycle, this is the BTC halving cycle. So from peak, like, so one of the predictions that I made was that the BTC all-time low, or sorry, BTC cycle low would be exactly 365 days from the all-time high. And it was pretty dead on. Like I'm talking like it was like out by hours. And I've got like proof that I made that call. But I mean, a lot of people made that call, and it's crazy that, you know, history kind of repeats a little bit. But I find this equally crazy as well. 540 days from the halving to the all-time high. It's happened 3 cycles in a row. It's pretty crazy. So these halvings, I mean, are what driving the market. And I was talking about that before with, you know, the correlation between the S&P 500 and BTC, and then BTC with the rest of the market. There's correlations with other alts and things like that, and particularly with these layer 1 native coins with respect to these halving points for BTC. So whether you think BTC is trash or not, it's kind of not important. But the halving point is important. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. And if I go back to that spreadsheet, that's the reason why I've got days from launch to the BTC halving. So I've chosen that metric because I think it's important. Where you are with respect to the cycle and when you launch in respect to the BTC halving can affect your performance. And lo and behold, the highest performing chain like Ethereum launched 337 days from the BTC halving. And we're talking, ICO to all-time high of 15,000x. So that's definitely the best performing chain. And then I think the next halving is the 29th of March 2024. All these dates are in the Aussie sort of English way. So I think Americans swap their months and their days. So if you're getting confused by that, how can you have 29 months? It's because that's the 29th of March. So 2024, and we are currently 378 days from the next BTC halving. So that to me is bullish, that through whatever circumstances have arisen with the, Aragon not syncing and waiting for whatever Shanghai updates on Ethereum, or waiting for just the Ethereum merge rather than forking, BSC, whatever all those factors were that's delayed us for that long to get us to this point. We're now entering like a real sweet spot where, in the next 40 days, we're approaching where basically the best performing layer one chain launched with respect to the BTC halving. And some of the other ones that were close to that, I think that's Polygon. So Matic. So that's pretty cool. And I think the performance, if you look at some of these numbers, and I can make this spreadsheet available for anyone who wants to, I can just, just DM me and let me know. On Twitter, my handle is just at YNGWIEWYLDE, or just Par Excellence. You might be able to find me. But yeah, check out. So there's quite a few different, all-time lows, all-time highs, things like that. But yeah, I think the overall trend of like how many X's it's done from ICO to all-time high, or even day one to all-time high, the reason why that has got a diminishing return is because these chains have been around for longer. So, and particularly Ethereum has seen multiple cycles. So when you're comparing it to, X's from the BTC halving, that's just from the first BTC halving, because Ethereum has experienced 2 BTC halvings. And I guess that's like also across here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. That's the dates there for the 3 halvings that have happened. And then that's the next one. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, Klaas, yeah. ETH did well day one for sure. In fact, if I go to the actual chart of that, there we go. So assuming, you've got trading view or whatever, and you're looking at ETH, USD, Bitstamp, I think it's the one with the oldest history. So if you go right in here, you want to go on the daily. Here we go. So this is what I was talking about with that day 2 drop. So this is kind of interesting. I mean, I suspect the fact that there was a huge difference between the ICO price of, I think it was 31 cents, to basically launching at $2.84. and then it closed, $2, whatever it was, 79. And that's why I sort of chose that as like as a metric for day one, comparison. So people could have got in at any of these prices. They could have got in slightly better than that, or they could have got in worse. But the day one close, I thought, was a good point to make it fair. But yeah, it actually went down heaps. And I thought this was interesting to me. When you have a huge impactful candle like this, either to the upside or the downside, you notice this has got like a what I call a damp sinusoid look about it. This pattern you see in a lot of in physics and engineering, and a lot of other things like in the natural world, where you get a damp sinusoid, where you effectively have a shock or like a large impulse, and then you have a correction or an overcorrection, and then a ringing, and then the ringing is decreasing. So it's called damping. I was looking it up before, and there's lots of equations for it. It's called a damped sinusoid, and it's a really interesting kind of concept, because I've seen that happen a lot in charts. If you look at a lot of charts, you tend to see that when there's been a huge drop, like say this is PLSX or something like that, and versus PLS, and a whole bunch of people are trying to, swap from PLSX to PLS or whatever on day one. This is speculation, because it could fully do the opposite. But say the price goes down heaps, and then you might find it corrects, and then it stabilizes. But then it tends to always, I find, it go in the direct trend to the direction that that initial shock has happened. So you get like a ringing, and then you tend to sort of go in that direction, and then you get price discovery or whatever. But yeah, that's very common. I've seen that happen a lot, and I do wonder whether some of the things that we see in nature, like damp sinusoids or Fibonacci, ratios and things like that. It's kind of odd that they appear in charting, because we're looking at a system with economic energy, and I guess the way that system and way the energy flows within that system is still somehow subjective to some of these rules, which is quite bizarre. But yeah, that was just sort of me just getting distracted by sinusoids. Oh, the pool party thing. Yeah, I felt like I was still going to make a point about this. Oh yeah. So there's another guy you've probably seen, your friend Somi. He's so funny. He's always talking about, his fluffy socks and whatever. I think he's an Aussie, and he's hilarious. But yeah, he has got a few similar things to do with the PulseChain sort of comparison to other L1s. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this for some reason makes it difficult. Bear with me 2 secs. Oh, yeah. Anyone in the chat got anything to say? Doing a shit job. Good work, Doz. Anything like that? Okay, cool. So yeah, your friend Sami, check him out on Twitter if you haven't already. I think and YouTube as well. This was the same graphic that we just looked at. He's just chosen Cardano and BSC, but he is comparing them in terms of when the ICO was raised, what percentage of the total crypto at that time. So that's an interesting way to look at it as well. So Ethereum, for example, it raised $15 million, which was 0.3% of the total market, total crypto market cap, whereas at PulseChain was only 0.04. And I think this is actually a really interesting sort of segue, because I'm not sure that a lot of the newer hexagons have have heard some of these stories from what it was like for when PulseChain sacrifice first came about. So I'm not an OG. I'm not day one, and there's a lot of people that came before me, and I have learned a lot from them. So respect to those guys. But I do remember the feeling when Hex had been pumping, basically from 1 cent to 10 cents, which is very similar to what it's done now. And Richard Hart was talking about the sacrifice, and it was a foreign concept. So no one had ever heard of the sacrifice. He literally invented that term, as far as I know, for sacrificing for free speech. And so the idea, so now people talk about it like, oh yeah, I sacked for whatever, liquid loans, or I sacked for Power City, or something like that. And it's just like people think, oh yeah, fair enough. It's very commonplace, and it's very normalized. But at that time, when Richard started talking about sacking for PulseChain, no one had really knew much about it. And the whole bonding curve, how for the first 5 days the rate was the same, and then it went down for, I think, for 20 days. It was shorter than the PLSX bonding curve. And that was confusing. A lot of people kind of thought, oh, if I wait till day 17, I'm going to be better off. And I thought that the price would pump all the way through that sacrifice period. But it didn't. Like, whales basically just, with the best day to sack was day 1. And likewise for PLSX. So it was a really confusing time, and everyone had made mad gains from, or maybe for me anyway, only say a 10x from Hex. And it was like, do we then want to give up this golden goose coin, which is performing so well for PulseChain, which we really knew nothing about? So I just want to give a bit of context, because a lot of people think, oh, I would have sacked heaps for that. And you may not have. And a lot of people didn't. And a lot of people look back and they regret, and they wish they had have sacked more for it. So that sentiment, I think, is possibly going to do things to the price on day 1 that it may be different to what we saw with Ethereum. So I won't go back to it just yet, but when we saw that day 2 drop, I think, depending on what the actual launch price is, but I think there's only X amount of PLS out there. A lot of big exchanges weren't able to sack for it, but they maybe want exposure to it. A lot of influencers and things like that maybe wrote it off, and then now they've changed their mind. Hashtag Richard Hart was right. Seeing a lot of this other stuff crumble, around, and then thinking, oh, wait a minute, hang on, RH actually, does know what he's talking about. I mean, we all knew that he did, but these influencers are a bit slow, I think, sometimes. So they may want to ape in on day 1. So I don't think we're going to see that drop, day 1, day 2 drop that Ethereum did. But anyway, that's just a little bit of context from my personal experience, that I think, yeah, a lot of people probably didn't go in as heavy. And I think Ash is in here. G'day, Ash. And yeah, so a lot of people sort of had a wish that they had gone in slightly heavier. And that, I think, he's got another, your friend Somi has got another one. I'm getting slightly faster at this. Yeah, which is really interesting, because it's like, the top 1,000 wallets, I guess, in terms of a normalized distribution, they are, in the one, the top 10% sort of percentile. The majority of people actually sacked below $5,000 to $10,000, and then it drops off pretty quickly. Most of the people will sacrifice like $100, and then likewise for PulseX. So yeah, I wouldn't feel too bad if people, have only got into the Pulse X SAC, but then they didn't get into Pulse. I think there's a lot of people that missed out. So, but I think in terms of like day one performance, I think is still, it may not be as good as the SAC date, but I still think if you go back to that, oh, this thing is a pain. Let me find it again. I put it in a condensed form, so maybe that's I might see if I can get someone to, or myself, if I can be bothered, to make this like pretty it up a bit, sort of like that other graphic. So from ICO to day one close, you might have a 10x or whatever for Ethereum. From ICO to all-time high was 15,000x, which is crazy. But even day one close to all-time high was still 1,500. And some of these numbers, I mean, they're pretty crazy. Even if you look at like AVAX or whatever, and you think, oh, it's only a 30x. I mean, that's still pretty crazy. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what PulseChain does there. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, let's see if I can bring that back up. Check out the dip catcher algorithm that he's got for TradingView. It's pretty cool. It's sort of, let's go back to X. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like, it's hectic. But it's actually probably simpler than it looks. Yeah, so these are just like, if it's above these, then you're expecting it to bounce off these, and then these are lines of resistance, and then he's got bias signal sort of stuff here as well. Whether you think that that's interesting or not, but I think that looking at moving averages can give you a similar idea. But yeah, I just thought I'd shout out Dipcatcher because he's a cool guy. They're doing the pool party hex stakes. So it sounds like it's like a Maximus DAO thing, but you can pool it with yourself and you can create your own pools. And they're doing some ticker thing. But yeah, check that out. I think basically everyone who's got like Maximus or Deci or whatever is going to get an airdrop of this pool party token anyway. So that'll be cool. So you kind of don't even have to do anything and you still like do well out of it. That's another really cool thing about the Richard Hart sort of ecosystem is, there's a lot of really cool, stat sites and like even this, the fatty guys, the buck guys, the fiat guys, and so they've got, you can look at different wallets and things like that. Oh, this is Godwire. So this is another sort of aggregator. I mean, like a wallet aggregator, like it shows you all of the coins like in that wallet, and I think it's been a while since I looked at this, but yeah, it's got like, you can look up the big wallets and different sacks and things like that and see how they're distributed. So yeah, this is just like a community page that's out there. And so where I was going with that was it's really cool how with the Richard Hart ecosystem that you have all of these developers that are building on top of it, and we've now got options for native stakes or for wrap stakes, or we've got kind of like the liquid stakes with Maxi, and then there's all these different derivatives. And I mean, some people argue that money that people spend on derivatives, whatever, could go into the hex price. But yeah, I kind of find it bit more interesting, and there's cool stuff. You know, you can look at arbitraging between, you know, if Icosa is on a discount or something like that, and then, you know, it's all about, for me, is about stacking hearts. So stacking hearts sounds weird, but stacking hex, you know. So yeah, whichever coin that I think that, you know, part of this RH ecosystem that might be on a discount or something like that, sometimes you can. But then if you're trading, you know, you do sometimes miss out on just these mad pumps. So at the moment, you know, just sitting and doing nothing seems to be the best option. All right, well, yeah, cool. I think I better shoot through, but hope you guys enjoyed that sort of the breakdown of the other layer ones, and I hope you enjoy your St. Patrick's Day, have a few beers for the Irish, and yeah, I'll see you next time. And let me know, please, in, you know, the description or whatever, or comments on Twitter, like what things you want me to check out. I might do a similar spreadsheet where I'm checking out, instead of a native coin layer one chain, you know, performance and comparisons, and check out different dexes. So the comparisons, so we can compare how we might, you know, think PulseX might perform with respect to other dexes. So we can maybe do that. Liquidity bonding, I think, was another thing that I was keen to talk about, or maybe just staking or whatever. If people are keen, then just, yeah, hit me up. We can do that. Cool. All right. Have a good weekend, guys. Catch ya. Okay.